The old ship floated silently in space, its battle-scarred hull reflecting the distant starlight. The U.S. dreadnought wasn't pretty to look at, not like the shiny new ships of the Galactic Defense Fleet, but Captain James Walker didn't care about looks. He stood on the bridge, his weathered hands resting on the old metal railing as he watched his crew work at their stations. The ship might be 75 years old, but every creak and groan told him a story. "Captain, incoming transmission from Fleet Command," said Tom Miller, the communications officer. His console was one of the few modern additions to the bridge, a compromise Walker had been forced to accept. "Put it through," Walker said, straightening his uniform. He knew what was coming. It was always the same thing these days. Admiral White's hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. Even through the blue glow of the projection, Walker could see the frustration on his old friend's face. "Jim, the council is pushing again. They want the dreadnought decommissioned. They say maintaining an outdated vessel is a waste of resources." Walker shook his head. "Tell them what I always tell them, Bill. This ship has survived 3 wars, 2 alien invasions, and more battles than their entire modern fleet combined. She's not outdated. She's proven. Times change, Jim. The new ships have AI targeting systems, quantum shields, neural interfaces. Your crew still uses manual targeting and mechanical controls. And that's exactly why we're still alive," Walker said, walking through the hologram to look out the main viewport. "When the Spiral Arm rebels used their virus weapons 6 years ago, what happened to those AI targeting systems? When the Cloud Raiders deploy their quantum scramblers, what good were those neural interfaces? But the dreadnought? We kept fighting. Because you can't hack a mechanical trigger, Bill. You can't scramble a human brain that knows its ship inside and out." The Admiral sighed. "I understand, Jim. But I can't keep fighting them on this. The best I can do is give you a quiet post. There's a mining colony in the Outer Rim that needs protection." "A retirement post," Walker said bitterly. "You're putting us out to pasture." "I'm keeping you in service," White countered. "Take it, Jim. Please, before they force my hand." Walker looked around his bridge. He saw Mike Roberts at navigation, his fingers dancing across actual physical controls that gave real feedback. Lisa Cooper at weapons, who could calculate firing solutions in her head because she understood the physics, not just the computers. Robert Thompson, the chief engineer who knew every pipe, every wire, every bolt of the dreadnought's massive engines. "Fine," Walker said finally. "Send us the coordinates. But Bill, when something goes wrong with all their fancy new technology, and it will, don't forget we're out there." The hologram nodded and disappeared. Walker turned to his crew, who had all pretended not to listen to the conversation. "Well, you heard that. We're being sent to guard rocks and miners. Anyone who wants to transfer to a more exciting post, now's your chance." Nobody moved. Roberts actually laughed. "With respect, Captain, I don't trust those new neural interfaces. I like feeling my ship respond to my touch. The day I let a computer tell me how to fire my guns is the day I quit," Cooper added from her station. "Sir," Thompson's voice came over the intercom from engineering. "Captain, if they want to decommission this ship, they'll have to drag me out of the engine room. These engines still have stories to tell." Walker smiled, feeling the familiar pride in his crew. The dreadnought wasn't just a ship to them. It was home. A home they had all fought to protect and maintain despite the constant pressure to scrap her for parts. Over the next few days, the dreadnought made its way to the Outer Rim. The trip took longer than it would have in a modern ship. The dreadnought's faster-than-light drive was efficient, but not as quick as the new quantum slip engines. Walker used the time to run drills, keeping his crew sharp. They'd practiced manual overrides, emergency procedures, and even old-style Morse code. The younger crew members sometimes questioned these outdated practices, but the veterans knew better. The mining colony came into view on the 7th day. It wasn't much to look at. A cluster of habitation domes on a rocky planetoid, surrounded by automated mining rigs. The colony's small port could barely accommodate the dreadnought's bulk, but Walker's crew knew their business. They eased the massive ship into orbit with a precision that only came from years of experience. "Standard patrol pattern, Mr. Roberts," Walker ordered. "Miss Cooper, maintain passive scans. Just because we're in the middle of nowhere doesn't mean we get sloppy." The crew acknowledged their orders, settling into their routine. Walker watched them work, remembering when this same bridge had been crowded with young officers from the academy, all eager to learn about the ancient systems. Now they were lucky if they got one visit a year from curious engineers wanting to study the primitive technology. That night, as Walker sat in his quarters reviewing maintenance reports, he ran his hand along the real wood desk. Another outdated feature of the old ship. A small alert flashed on his tablet, and he pulled up the message. It was from Admiral White, marked personal. "Jim," the message read, "I bought you some time. The mining colony contract is for 1 year. Use it wisely. And keep your powder dry, old friend. My sources say there's something stirring out in the dark spaces. When it hits, all these fancy new ships might learn a thing or two about why we kept ships like yours around for so long. Watch your back. Bill." Walker leaned back in his chair, feeling the subtle vibration of the dreadnought's engines through the deck plates. Out there in the darkness of space, among all the shiny new ships with their quantum this and neural that, his old warrior still had her place. And somehow, he knew that sooner or later, the galaxy would remember why. He closed the message and walked to his viewport, watching the stars drift by. The dreadnought might be old, but she was far from finished. And if trouble was coming, well, trouble would learn what Walker and his crew had known all along. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. 3 weeks into their guard duty at the mining colony, the crew of the dreadnought had fallen into a steady routine. The ship made slow, careful circles around the colony, its old sensors keeping watch over the miners as they worked. It wasn't exciting work, but it was peaceful. That peace was about to end. "Captain to the bridge." Tom Miller's voice crackled over the intercom, jerking Walker awake. He was moving before his feet hit the floor, years of training taking over. Something in Miller's voice told him this wasn't a drill. The bridge was already busy when Walker arrived. "Report," he ordered, taking his place at the command station. "Distress signal, sir," Miller said, his fingers working the communications console. "From a cargo ship. They say they're under attack by pirates." He paused, frowning at his screen. "It's strange, though. The signal's pretty clear for this sector." Walker nodded. Too clear. In his experience, real distress signals were usually broken, garbled by damage or interference. "Location: about 30 minutes at full speed, sir. Just on the edge of our patrol zone." Walker studied the tactical display. The signal was coming from a spot near a cluster of asteroids. Perfect for an ambush. But if there really was a ship in trouble out there, "Signal the colony that we're investigating a distress call," Walker ordered. "Then get me Admiral White on a secure channel." The Admiral's hologram appeared quickly, too quickly, Walker thought, almost like he'd been waiting for the call. "Jim," White said, his face grim, "I assume you picked up the distress signal. You know about it. 3 of our newest cruisers are already responding. The Valiant, the Defender, and the Swift. Top-of-the-line ships, quantum drives, full AI integration." White's image flickered. "Jim, be careful out there. My sources were right. Something's stirring." The transmission cut off abruptly. Walker turned to his crew. "Battle stations. This isn't a rescue mission. It's a trap. And we're going to spring it." Red alert klaxons sounded throughout the ship as the crew prepared for combat. In engineering, Thompson coaxed extra power from the old engines. At weapons, Cooper ran manual checks on every gun. Roberts plotted a course that would bring them in behind the asteroid field. The dreadnought moved through space, its hull plates creaking as they accelerated. Modern ships would have already reached the distress signal, but Walker wasn't in a hurry. He wanted to see what happened first. They didn't have to wait long. Bright flashes lit up space near the asteroids. Weapons fire. Walker watched as 3 sleek shapes emerged from behind the rocks, running at full speed. The new cruisers, their quantum shields flickering as they took hits from unseen enemies. Getting readings on multiple hostile ships, Miller reported. Sir, they're not like anything in our database. The energy signatures are completely alien. Show me, Walker ordered. The main screen lit up with tactical data. The enemy ships were beautiful in a strange way, all curved lines and glowing surfaces, like liquid metal frozen in space. They moved with impossible grace, their weapons cutting through the quantum shields of the galactic fleet cruisers like they weren't even there. Sir, Cooper said from her weapons station, those new ships, their targeting systems are automated. They're trying to calculate perfect shots, but the enemy vessels are moving in patterns the computers can't predict. Walker watched as one of the cruisers, the Swift, tried to execute a complex evasive maneuver. Its AI pilot plotted a mathematically perfect course and flew straight into a burst of enemy fire. The ship's quantum shields flared and died, and moments later the Swift itself exploded in a silent flash. The enemy knows our technology, Walker said quietly. They know exactly how our modern ships think and move, because they've studied them. He turned to his crew. But they haven't studied us. The Defender was the next to go, its AI trying desperately to find a pattern in the enemy attacks. There wasn't one. The alien ships were flying on pure instinct, their movements random and unpredictable. The Valiant lasted longer, its captain apparently having switched to manual control, but it too succumbed to the overwhelming fire. Walker waited until the enemy ships started moving toward the mining colony. Then he gave the order everyone was waiting for. Take us in, Mr. Roberts. All power to the old systems. Nothing quantum, nothing automated. We do this the way we trained. The Dreadnought's engines roared to life, pushing the massive ship forward. In engineering, Thompson and his team worked their controls by hand, adjusting power flow and system balance through experience rather than computer guidance. Cooper's fingers rested on the manual firing controls, her mind already calculating trajectories the old way. The enemy ships noticed them. Of course. The first shots came in. Strange, twisting beams of energy that should have torn through their hull. But the Dreadnought's old armor was thick, solid, built to take hits rather than deflect them. Where modern quantum shields would have failed, simple metal held. They're trying to get a target lock, Miller reported, watching his instruments. Their sensors keep sliding off our hull. They're looking for electronic signatures, but we're running dark. That's right, Walker smiled. Sometimes the best technology is no technology at all. Miss Cooper, show them what old-fashioned gunnery can do. Cooper's hands moved across her console. The Dreadnought's main guns, massive rail cannons that fired actual physical projectiles, roared to life. There was no sophisticated targeting computer, no AI to calculate the perfect shot. Just human skill and years of practice. The first volley caught the enemy completely by surprise. They had expected energy weapons, things their advanced shields could deflect. Instead, they were hit by solid metal traveling at incredible speeds. 2 of the alien ships spun away, their beautiful hulls torn open to space. They're regrouping, Roberts called out, trying to surround us. Let them try, Walker said. Keep us moving, random pattern. No computers. I want you to fly her like you feel it. Roberts grinned and did exactly that. The Dreadnought might be old and slow compared to modern ships, but she was built solid. Her bulk became an advantage as Roberts sent her spinning through space, using momentum and mass to keep the enemy off balance. More alien ships appeared from behind the asteroids. Clearly, they hadn't expected to need their full force for this attack. They came in fast, their weapons blazing with strange energy. The Dreadnought took hits, her hull glowing red in places, but she kept fighting. Cooper's gunnery crews worked their weapons with practiced precision, filling space with simple kinetic projectiles that the enemy's advanced shields couldn't handle. Thompson kept the power flowing, his engineering team working in perfect sync, knowing exactly how much stress each system could take. When the last alien ship finally retreated, trailing atmosphere and debris, the dreadnought's hull was scorched and pitted, but she was still fighting fit. Walker looked around his bridge at his tired but proud crew. "Send a message to Fleet Command," he ordered Miller. Tell them the old girl still has some fight left in her. And we're going to need it." He paused, watching the alien ship disappear into the darkness of space. "Because I have a feeling they'll be back. And next time, they'll bring their real fleet." The dreadnought limped back to the mining colony, its ancient hull bearing fresh scars from the battle. In engineering, Thompson worked with his team to repair what they could, but everyone knew they needed supplies. More importantly, they needed information. Walker stood on his bridge, watching the repair drones crawl across the external hull cameras. The enemy ships had been like nothing he'd ever seen before, and he'd seen plenty in his years of service. His thoughts were interrupted by Miller's voice. "Captain, incoming transmission from Fleet Command. Priority 1. This time, when Admiral White's hologram appeared, he wasn't alone. A tall figure in the dark blue uniform of Galactic Intelligence stood beside him. Walker recognized him as Director Adams, head of the Intelligence Division. "Captain Walker," Adams spoke first, his voice crisp. "Your encounter with the Meridian Empire's scout fleet has confirmed our worst fears." "The Meridian Empire?" Walker asked, the name unfamiliar. "A species from beyond the galactic rim," Adams explained. "They've been watching us for years, studying our technology, our tactics. Those ships you fought, they were testing our defenses, analyzing our responses. And you, Captain, just threw them completely off balance." Walker understood. "Because we didn't fight the way they expected." "Exactly," White cut in. "Every simulation they've run, every battle plan they've made, is based on our current technology. AI systems, quantum shields, neural interfaces. But the dreadnought," he smiled. "You can't simulate what you don't understand." "We're sending you everything we have on the Meridians," Adams said. "But more importantly, we're sending you supplies and reinforcements. You're no longer just guarding a mining colony, Captain. You're our best hope of stopping what's coming." The transmission ended, and moments later, data began flowing into the ship's computers. Walker gathered his senior staff in the briefing room to review what they'd learned. The Meridian Empire was vast, powerful, and methodical. They conquered through perfect preparation, studying their enemies until they knew exactly how to defeat them. "Look at this," Thompson said, pointing to a technical analysis. "Their whole battle strategy is based on predicting enemy movements. Their computers analyze patterns in our ship designs, our tactical doctrines, even the way our crews are trained. They build their attacks around that knowledge." "But they can't predict what they don't understand," Cooper added, catching on. "Our manual targeting, our mechanical systems. We're analog fighters in a digital war," Roberts finished. "And that makes us dangerous." Walker nodded. "That's why we're going to strip out every modern upgrade they forced on us. Thompson, I want the dreadnought running on her original systems only. Everything else goes dark." Over the next few days, the crew worked tirelessly. Modern targeting computers were disconnected. Quantum communication arrays were powered down. Even the holographic displays were replaced with old-style screens. The dreadnought was going back to basics. Supply ships arrived, bringing ammunition for the rail guns and spare parts for the old systems. They also brought news. Long-range sensors had detected a massive Meridian fleet moving toward their sector. The enemy had decided to deal with the troublesome old ship personally. Walker had his crew run constant drills, practicing everything without computer assistance. Cooper's gunners worked with manual sights and physical triggers. Roberts and his navigation team plotted courses using actual charts and calculations. In engineering, Thompson stripped systems down to their most basic components, eliminating anything that could be hacked or predicted. "They'll try to jam our communications first," Walker told his crew during a briefing. "When that fails, they'll attempt to hack our systems. When that fails, they'll try to predict our movements. And when all of that fails," he smiled grimly, "they'll have to fight us the old-fashioned way. And that's when we'll have them." The waiting was the hardest part. The crew knew the Meridians were coming, but not exactly when. They kept the mining colony on high alert, ready to evacuate at a moment's notice. The colonists, who had initially complained about their outdated protector, now looked at the dreadnought with newfound respect. Then, 6 days after the first battle, deep space sensors picked up the enemy fleet. It was massive. Dozens of ships, all more advanced than anything in the galactic fleet. They moved with that same liquid grace as the scout ships, their hulls gleaming with strange energy. "They're trying to scan us," Miller reported from his station. "But without our modern systems online, they're getting confused readings. To their sensors, we barely look like a ship at all." "Good," Walker said. "Let them wonder. All hands to battle stations. Thompson, give us everything the old engines have. Roberts, plot us a course through the asteroid field, the densest part. Cooper, I want solutions calculated for every gun. We're going to remind them why humanity survived long enough to build fancy computers in the first place." The dreadnought's engines roared to life, pushing the massive ship forward. On the bridge, screens showed the Meridian fleet spreading out, trying to surround them. Their formations were perfect, their movements synchronized by advanced computers. They looked unstoppable. But Walker saw something else. In their perfect precision, in their calculated movements, he saw their weakness. They fought like machines, fought like computers. Every move was based on probability and pattern recognition. But humans could be unpredictable. Humans could act on instinct, could make choices that defied logical analysis. "All hands," Walker's voice echoed through the ship's old speakers. "Remember your training. Remember every drill, every practice session. But most importantly, remember this. They expect us to fight like machines. So let's show them how humans really fight." The dreadnought plunged into the asteroid field, its old hull creaking under the strain. The Meridian ships followed, their perfect formation breaking up as they were forced to navigate the chaos of tumbling rocks and debris. This was where the human touch proved its worth. Roberts didn't try to plot perfect courses through the field. He felt his way through, using instinct and experience where computers would have tried to calculate every possibility. Cooper's gunners worked their weapons with practiced skill, firing not where the enemy ships were, but where instinct told them they would be. The rail gun spoke again and again, sending simple metal slugs through space at incredible speeds. The Meridian's advanced shields, designed to stop energy weapons, struggled to deal with these primitive projectiles. This was the kind of battle humans had fought for centuries before computers came along. It was messy, chaotic, and completely unpredictable. And in that chaos, the dreadnought's crew found their advantage. They didn't need computers to tell them how to fight. They just needed courage, skill, and the determination to prove that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. As the battle began in earnest, Walker gripped his command rail and smiled. The real fight was about to begin, and he knew one thing for certain. The Meridians were about to learn that outdated didn't mean outmatched. The battle in the asteroid field had been raging for hours. The dreadnought's old hull was blackened and scarred, but she kept fighting. 3 Meridian ships had already fallen to her guns, their perfect formations broken by the unpredictable human tactics. But more kept coming, and Walker knew they couldn't keep this up forever. "Hull breach on deck 4. Thompson's voice crackled over the intercom. "We've sealed it, but we're running out of patches. And Captain," he hesitated, "there's something you need to see. In the main engineering room. Now." Walker looked at his bridge crew, then nodded to Roberts. "Keep us moving. Don't let them box us in." He made his way through the shaking ship to engineering. holding onto the walls as another hit rocked the vessel. The main engineering room was a maze of pipes, cables, and old machinery. Thompson was waiting by a sealed door Walker had never noticed before, hidden behind a panel of ordinary-looking gauges. The chief engineer's hands were covered in grease, and his face was deadly serious. "I found this while stripping out the modern systems," Thompson said, entering a code into an ancient-looking keypad. It was hidden in the original blueprints, classified under a project name I've never heard of, Operation Last Stand. The door opened with a hiss of old hydraulics. Inside was a room full of machinery that looked different from anything else on the ship. It was older, somehow more basic, yet Walker could feel the power humming through the walls. "What am I looking at?" he asked. Thompson ran his hand along a massive cylinder in the center of the room. "The reason the Dreadnought was never supposed to be decommissioned. This isn't just an old ship, Captain. She's a test bed. The last one." He pointed to the cylinder. "This is a gravitational compression cannon. The only one ever built." Walker's eyes widened. Modern ships used energy weapons, plasma, lasers, quantum disruptors. But gravity? Why wasn't this in any of the ship's records? "Because it was too dangerous," Thompson said. "Not just to the enemy, but to us. The scientists who built it, they found a way to create a point of artificial gravity so dense it could tear apart anything near it. But the power requirements were massive. The targeting had to be perfect. One mistake, and," he shrugged, "they shut down the program. Switched to energy weapons instead. Safer, more efficient." "But they left this one," Walker said, understanding dawning. "Hidden away on an old ship nobody would look too closely at. Ready if we ever needed it." Another hit rocked the ship. Miller's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we've got problems. Big ones. The Meridian flagship just arrived. Sir, it's bigger than anything we've ever seen." Walker looked at Thompson. "Can you get this thing working?" The engineer grinned. "Already started. But Captain, we'll only get one shot. The power cells are old, and charging them will take everything we've got. And," he hesitated, "the targeting computer is completely mechanical. No electronics at all. We'll have to aim it by hand." "How long to charge it?" 20 minutes. Maybe less if I redline the engines." Walker nodded. "Do it. And get Cooper down here. If we're going to aim this thing, I want my best gunner on it." Back on the bridge, Walker watched as the Meridian flagship emerged from the darkness of space. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. A massive ship that seemed to flow like liquid metal, surrounded by an escort of smaller vessels. The ship's sensors were broadcasting on all frequencies, trying to analyze the Dreadnought's defenses. "They're hailing us," Miller reported. "Put them through." A figure appeared on the main screen, tall, elegant, with silver skin that rippled like mercury. "Primitive vessel," the Meridian commander spoke in perfect galactic standard. "You have impressed us with your unconventional tactics. But this game is over. Surrender now, and we will study your ship's unique properties before we destroy it." Walker smiled. "You're right about one thing. This game is over, but not the way you think." He cut the transmission. "Roberts, get us as close to that flagship as you can. Cooper, get down to engineering. You've got a new gun to learn how to use." The next 15 minutes were the longest of Walker's life. The Dreadnought took hit after hit as Roberts maneuvered them through the Meridian fleet. Their rail guns kept firing, keeping the enemy busy, but everyone knew they were just buying time. "Power cells at 60%. Thompson's voice was strained. "The old systems were never meant to handle this much current. We're burning out relays faster than we can replace them." "Hold it together," Walker ordered. "Roberts, status." "Almost in position." The navigator's hands flew over his controls. "But they're not making it easy. Their flagship's got some kind of gravitational defense screen. Getting closer is like trying to swim up a waterfall." Walker smiled grimly. "They're using gravity against us." "Perfect. Thompson, How's Cooper doing with the targeting? She's got it figured out. Says it's like an old naval gun, just bigger. We're at 80% charge. The Meridian flagship loomed larger on their screens, its escort ships moving to surround the dreadnought. Energy weapons battered their hull, and warning lights were flashing across every console. 90%, Thompson called. But Captain, the power surge is going to knock out most of our systems. We'll be dead in space for at least a minute after we fire. If this works, Walker said, we'll only need a second. Cooper, target their gravitational defense screen. Let them help us tear their own ship apart. The dreadnought shuddered as another hit struck home. Hull breach warnings were sounding from 3 decks. The temperature in engineering was reaching dangerous levels as the power cells charge. Ready, Thompson shouted, loading the gravitational compressor, charging the firing mechanism. Walker gripped his command rail. All hands, brace for impact. This is going to get interesting. He took a deep breath. Fire. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Walker felt it. A pull, like the entire ship was being dragged sideways. On the main screen, a barely visible distortion emerged from the hidden weapons barrel. It moved slowly at first, then faster, accelerating toward the Meridian flagship. The enemy commander must have realized something was wrong. The flagship tried to move, tried to bring its advanced shields to bear, but it was too late. The gravitational projectile struck their defense screen, and something impossible happened. The 2 gravitational fields merged, amplified each other, and created a point in space where the laws of physics began to break down. The Meridian flagship's beautiful hull began to twist, pulled apart by forces it was never designed to resist. Its escort ships were caught in the effect, their own gravity generators making the problem worse as they tried to break free. The dreadnought's systems went dark, just as Thompson had warned. For a full minute, they floated powerless, watching as the pride of the Meridian fleet was torn apart by the very forces they had tried to master. When emergency power finally came back online, the enemy flagship was gone, replaced by a spreading cloud of debris. Its escort ships were scattered, their perfect formations broken, their hulls twisted by gravitational stress. Send a message to any surviving Meridian ships, Walker ordered Miller. Tell them this is what happens when you underestimate old technology. And if they ever come back, we've got more surprises waiting. As the enemy ships retreated, Walker looked around his bridge at his exhausted but proud crew. The dreadnought had proven once again that age didn't mean weakness, but he knew this wasn't over. The Meridian Empire wouldn't take this defeat lightly. They would be back, and next time, they would bring their entire fleet. 2 days after destroying the Meridian flagship, the dreadnought's crew worked tirelessly to repair their ship. The gravitational weapon had taken a toll on the old vessel, power conduits were burned out, hull plates were buckled, and half their systems needed rebuilding. But they all knew they didn't have much time. The Meridians would return, and they would be angry. Message from Fleet Command. Miller called out from his station. His console was one of the few fully functioning systems left. Admiral White is requesting an emergency conference. Walker stood before the flickering hologram projector as White's image appeared. The Admiral's face was grim. Jim, our long-range scouts have detected the Meridian response fleet. It's their entire battle force. Over 300 ships, led by their ruling council itself. They're coming to erase the embarrassment of being defeated by an obsolete vessel. How long do we have? 6 hours, maybe less. We're mobilizing every ship we can, but most of our fleet is tied up defending the core worlds. You'll have to hold them off until reinforcements arrive. White paused. Jim, that gravity weapon of yours, could it be used against their homeworld? Walker looked at Thompson, who had been listening nearby. The engineer shook his head. The power cells are barely holding together after the last shot. We'd need days to repair them properly. There might be another way, Thompson added, stepping forward. The weapon creates a point of focused gravity. If we could get close enough to their planet, We wouldn't need full power. Their own planetary mass would amplify the effect. You're talking about creating a cascading gravitational collapse, Walker said, understanding. Not destroying the planet, but making it temporarily uninhabitable, forcing them to evacuate. It's possible, Thompson nodded. But we have to get past their entire fleet and into low orbit, and we probably burn out every system on the ship doing it. White's hologram flickered. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. We'll try to buy you time. But the transmission cut off as new alerts sounded across the bridge. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, Roberts reported from navigation. They're here early. A lot of them. The main screen lit up with contacts. Hundreds of Meridian ships, filling space with their liquid metal hulls and advanced technology. At their center was a vessel that dwarfed even their previous flagship. Its hull pulsed with strange energies, and its very presence seemed to distort the space around it. They're broadcasting, Miller said. To everyone, not just us. The message played across every screen and speaker in the sector. The Meridian Ruling Council, their silver faces cold with anger, spoke as one. Primitive species of the galaxy, witness your final defeat. The obsolete vessel that dared to challenge us will be destroyed, along with any who stand with it. Resistance is. Walker cut the transmission. I'm getting tired of being called obsolete. Miller, send a message to the mining colony. Tell them to evacuate immediately. Roberts, plot us a course through that fleet. Thompson, give us everything you can from the engines. Cooper, warm up our surprise. The Dreadnought's engines roared to life, pushing the old ship forward. The Meridian fleet moved to surround them. Their formations perfect, their tactics flawless. But this time, they kept their distance, firing from range with their energy weapons. They're learning, Cooper said from her station, staying away from our rail guns. And they're using some kind of scatter pattern, making it harder to create another gravitational point. Walker nodded. They studied our last battle, adapted their tactics. He smiled. But they still think like machines. Roberts set course for their homeworld. Full speed. The navigator's hands flew over his controls. They got us completely surrounded, sir. The only way through is straight through. Exactly. They expect us to be tactical, to look for a weak point. So let's do the one thing their computers can't predict, something completely insane. The Dreadnought turned, aiming directly at the thickest part of the Meridian formation. Her engines strained as Roberts pushed them to full power. The enemy ships, expecting some kind of trick, actually hesitated for a crucial moment. All weapons, fire at will, Walker ordered. Thompson, divert all power to the forward hull plating. We're going to ram our way through. The old ship became a battering ram, her thick hull absorbing hits that would have destroyed more modern vessels. Rail guns fired continuously, creating a path of destruction through the enemy fleet. The Meridians, for all their advanced technology, had never encountered an enemy willing to simply punch through their lines. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Thompson reported. Emergency bulkheads holding, but we're losing atmosphere. Power cells for the gravity weapon are charging, but slowly. Meridian vessels moving to block our path to their homeworld. Miller called out. They figured out what we're trying to do. Walker gripped his command rail as another hit rocked the ship. Cooper, target their command ship with the main guns. Roberts, plot an evasive course that looks like we're trying to escape. Let's see if they still think we're predictable. The Dreadnought turned, seemingly attempting to flee. The Meridian fleet followed, their command ship moving to cut off their retreat. It was exactly what Walker had hoped for. Now, full power to engines, reverse course. The old ship swung around with surprising speed, her engines straining as she charged straight at the Meridian command ship. The enemy vessel, its computers still trying to predict their next move, reacted too slowly. Gravity weapon at 60%, Thompson shouted. It's not fully charged. It'll have to do, Walker said. Cooper, fire when ready. Roberts, get us into the atmosphere as soon as they're hit. We'll only have one chance at this. The dreadnought's hidden weapon fired, its gravitational projectile striking the massive command ship. But this time, instead of destroying it, the weakened blast created something else. A gravitational corridor, pulled open wider by the planet's own mass. Their ship's caught in the effect, Cooper reported. It's being pulled down into the atmosphere. Follow it in, Walker ordered. Use their ship as a shield. The dreadnought dove into the planet's atmosphere behind the falling command ship, using its bulk to protect them from the rest of the fleet's fire. The Meridian vessel's own gravity generators, trying to fight the effect, only made things worse. Weapon charging for final shot. Thompson's voice was strained. But sir, the power feedback. It's going to destroy the ship this time. Walker looked around his bridge, at the crew that had become his family. Evacuation pods ready. As soon as we fire, everyone gets out. The old girl's given us enough. We won't ask her for more. The dreadnought broke through the clouds, its hull glowing red from atmospheric entry. Below them, the silver spires of the Meridian capital stretched toward the sky. The command ship, still caught in the gravitational effect, crashed into the surface with devastating force. Now, Cooper, fire. The gravity weapon fired one last time, its power cells burning out completely. The blast struck the planet's surface, combining with its natural gravity to create a cascading wave of gravitational distortion. The effect spread rapidly, turning the ground itself unstable. All hands, abandon ship. Walker ordered, get to the pods. The crew ran for the evacuation pods as the dreadnought's systems failed one by one. Walker stayed at his post until the last pod launched, then made his way to his own escape vessel. As he launched away from his dying ship, he watched through the pod's window as the dreadnought, her hull finally breaking apart, fell into the gravity wave she had created. The effect spread across the planet's surface, making it impossible for anything to remain. The Meridian fleet, realizing their homeworld was becoming uninhabitable, began evacuating their own people. Their perfect formation broke as ships rushed to save as many as they could. Hours later, as galactic fleet reinforcements finally arrived, they found the Meridian fleet retreating, carrying their surviving population into deep space. The planet below was intact but completely uninhabitable, its surface twisted by gravitational forces that would take years to stabilize. Walker and his crew were picked up by Admiral White's personal ship. As they watched the Meridians retreat, White turned to Walker with a smile. Well, Jim, I think we can safely say the dreadnought wasn't obsolete after all. Walker looked at his crew, tired, injured, but alive and proud. No, sir, she wasn't. She was just waiting for the right moment to show everyone that sometimes the old ways aren't just the best ways. Sometimes they're the only ways that work.